So now quickly we'll move to our next session. So the topic is the future of remote working. So nowadays everybody is working remotely, right? So it's most of it is work from home. So our speaker for this session is Lalita Chandel. She's an enterprise agile coach, a change leader and a trainer with 16 years of experience of global IT and agile transformation experience she has. So she'll be taking you through about the future of remote working now. So over to you, Lalita.
Thank you. Thank you, Neetu. Can you make me the presenter? All right. So good morning, everyone. It's great to be on this forum. As you can see, I plan to share some of my thoughts on the future of remote working. Just one disclaimer from my side that I don't have any crystal ball or a magic band that I could just wave and see the future. Everything that I plan to present is based on research, readings, brainstormings, discussions over this entire remote working model. Because I think as human beings, we still do not have that superpower to very clearly visualize or see the future. I think, of course, there are some exceptional people who can do that. But if we go back to the history, I think even 5 years back, none of us could imagine that we are heading to such a global pandemic, right? I think it was all going normal previously. We used to call that as a normal for all of us, and in a span of couple of events, we find ourselves in a complete lockdown situation, and that was also the case with a lot of other countries, right? And the biggest survival mantra at that time was social distancing. So in a span of time, I think things just change right from the way how we want to do greeting to the point of doing medical consultations, even the way of working, right? So and it's not just with us, but even kids, even students, they had to go this complete shift from in-person working, in-person being there to something which is more like a virtual medium. And were we prepared for it? Was there any transition plan? Absolutely not. I think there was no other choice, right? And that's how we all landed up into something like this. So I think as agilists, we have been all very supportive of individuals and interactions, but maybe this is the point where we also want to see the importance of processes and the tools, right? Because they are the ones that are connecting all of us together. But is this the first time we are seeing such a pandemic-like situation? If we go back to history, the lessons of history, I don't think that's the case. We have been in such pandemic-like situations, but the differentiating factor is the power of technology that we have today. So I thought maybe just let's have a view of the timeline right from the days of industrial revolution to the whole global disruption time that we are seeing today, right? So that's where I've tried to present a timeline that you can see in front of you. So I think we had definitely a lot of significant developments early from 1970s. If you see the very first journal or article on telecommuting was published by a NASA engineer, Jack Niles. He's also known as the father of remote working, by the way. And of course, later on, development of personal computer, development of internet, Wi-Fi, VoIP, all that stuff was very significant. And here comes 2000, we also saw Agile Manifesto coming into picture. So if you look at the last 20 years, there have been significant developments, significant investments on the technology space. So 2006 was the year when people actually started exploring or understanding about distributed agile. And of course, Zoom was something that was founded in 2011. We had something like Skype, things like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, WhatsApp. I think they have very well shrunk the physical boundaries, and they have connected all of us together. One also very important event that happened in past was something like an embargo, where you had the crude oil prices were very skyrocketing. So if you see that a very significant foundation was already established, right? Now, so but that is a global view, okay? And do you think that that is exactly what was replicated in India? I mean, when I used to work in US or the Western side, we had something like remote working. We had already seen remote working in action. But I think it is only the global pandemic that has got remote working in a very, very mainstream practice in India. So I really recommend, if you guys are passionate about understanding India's technology revolution, I found a wonderful book, The Outsourcer, from Dinesh Sharma. So it really talks about how India has evolved, right? From the early days of license Raj to growth or globalization, then all the development of technology, communication, the workforce capital, the English-speaking workforce capital, the advantage that India had already. And of course, then the whole rising of technology players, right? You had a lot of outsourcing happening in India. And suddenly we start seeing a lot of technology players in India. And here comes the COVID situation where we are seeing actually remote working in completely mainstream function. So clearly we are now heading to a new hybrid model, because once, let's say, this is all done, I of course wish for that, but does that mean that we are going back to the old style? Maybe not. So we definitely are going to emerge to a new normal, or something that we call as a hybrid working model. So I've tried to just give a definition to what exactly is this paradigm shift. And I think one very pressing question for all of us is, are we ready for it? Okay. So what now really matters is the results, the outcomes, and not just the emotion involved in that. Okay, we have been used to, let's say, work in a 9 to 5 kind of work schedule, or let's say 11 to 8, something which is where we commute to office, do the work, take a lunch break, tea break, and then come back. But then now the schedule is something that is defined by us as individuals, right? So the flexibility matters. Uh, Asynchronous communication, I think that is a very great glue that is connecting people nowadays across time zones, because you just don't need everybody in the same time zone. Thanks to things like Slack or MS Teams, where you have those chat windows, you have those channels, you can easily do asynchronous communication. And that is actually connecting the whole world across time zones very well. I'm sure you're hearing or seeing the term societal for the first time. So let me give some definition on that. So we all have had digital experiences, of course, but societal is something that I call as having social bonding or social experiences over a digital medium, right? So you have events like farewells, birthdays, happy hours on a video forum, on a Zoom call, or let's say having a birthday. So some kind of social events which you are doing on a digital medium. We always had technology, but tell me, did we ever think of using Zoom for doing something like a birthday celebration or a farewell at a massive scale? Maybe not. I think this situation that we are in today has revolutionized the way we are doing even social bondings. And if let's say you are looking to hire great talent, go borderless. I think that is an opportunity for you, because now no more you have to think about having relocation, the new cost of living expenses. People can actually work from their native places, their hometowns. So of course it has great advantages. So it's definitely a paradigm shift, but the question is, are we ready for it? Uh, we had a lot of organizations actually talking about their work from home plans, right? Early last year. In fact, TCS made a very bold commitment of the 25-25 model, where they said that yes, we will have 75% of the people by 2025 working from their remote places. And to support that, there was something called as TCS SBWS. That was a framework that was rolled out. So this was something that came as a sudden change for all of us, and that's where me and two of my colleagues started thinking or researching more about it. So if you can see all the research, all the understanding, learning that we have done on this article, on this subject, we have done completely from our base locations. We all are distributed, and that is how we came across the framework that we're going to present here in front of you. So what we call it a 3 E's model. You need the 3 E's to live and adapt to this new normal where we are heading to. So what are the 3 E's? Let's have a look at that. It's about embracing remote working as an individual. It is about enabling remote office environment if you are an organization leader. And of course, it is about connecting or building the bridge because that empowerment is required. Okay, and that is exactly where you have to use the digital tools. So let's have a look at all of them one by one. Okay, now, so I think this many of you would correlate with these aspects of remote working. And as an individual, how can I embrace? Because even if the organization even earlier was, let's say, supporting, but if I don't find it comfortable, if I find it very distracting, it is really hard to really adapt to this new normal. So these are the 4 dimensions that are important to think when you want to embrace remote working. Let's start first of all with well-being. Okay, now to be effective, to be productive, it is important to be at an emotional, mental, physical level. You are taking well care of yourself. Okay, now we are here for purpose, and it is important when we are working remotely how well we understand the purpose that we are trying to meet. The third is something that many of you may be correlating very well. It's about work-life integration. I think the biggest challenge last year for all of us, because everything was in lockdown, was basically drawing the boundary between personal life and the work life, because there is very thin boundary, and it is very easy to get all of that merged. Okay, and I think that is exactly where we need some conscious practices, like having our own calendar, having defining our schedule, and putting that communicated to everybody in your team, let's say. Because if there is too much of mixing of your work and life, I mean, end of the day, how would you feel rejuvenated? It is important that you keep things separate and you define your own separation boundary. And end of the day, how exactly are you embracing? Okay, how exactly are you sustaining all of these things? Now, as a remote worker, if you have already mastered this, I think you must have figured out all the 4 areas. But if not, I would like a moment for you to think about what exactly are you doing for all these 4 areas. I will now move forward to the next pointer on the enable part, because even if your employees love to work at remote working, but if the organization is not friendly for remote working, that can again be a challenge. So as an enabler, if you're an organization leader, I think the important thing is to understand that we have to really take care of the people. Okay, we need more empathetic leaders. We need more flexible processes. We need policies that are supporting this remote working, or let's say even work from anywhere in the long run. And if you want to really think of sustaining at the organization level, 3 questions that I would want to put forward here. As an organization, are you innovating? Are you creating value? And is the perseverance being developed over a period of time? Because things will not just suddenly happen. You will not see changes just happening very quickly, or things working always perfectly fine. You need to really take care of all of that. We had a lot of interesting stories in TCS where when the remote working was something that had to be put in place, the infrastructure, the machines, they were actually shipped to people's house so that they can work from there. And at the same time, when we are talking about process changes, now how do you really revive them to consider this remote working aspect? Let's talk about onboarding. Whenever we used to have new onboarding done for new employees earlier, pre-COVID days, we would have the person actually walking into the workspace premises of the organization. But now the things are completely changed, because now we have to have a remote onboarding, and let's say the infrastructure, the devices, everything is first of all will be coming to the person's premises. So if you see the complete shift that has happened, and of course security is not something that you will compromise, right? So after enable, let's also look at one very important thing, which is actually acting as a bridge between both of them, the empowering with the tools that you have. So suddenly, if you see, we need different types, different varieties of digital tools, technology support, whether it is for brainstorming or just having one-on-one conversation. Even, for example, for a supervisor to have face-to-face connect conversation, or let's say you want to visualize the whole life cycle of your system. So, I mean, something like Miro and Mural, I started exploring it only until last year when I felt the need of it. Before that, it was something that I would absolutely not really bother about, because I was so comfortable doing all these things in person. So what I'm saying is that this also has created a need for all of us as practitioners to build these skills on remote consultation, remote coaching, because it is very important to create that impact even when we are not present in the same physical premises, correct? So with this, I want to take you to the last slide that I have. These are some of the great recommended readings that I go through a lot. I follow these thought leaders, Seidel, Prithviraj, and of course Ashok Krish from our own organization. I'm very passionate about this subject, and I'm also happy to take any questions that you may have for me. I hope this discussion was helpful to all of you. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks, Lalita. Yeah, thank you so much for such an interesting session. As remote
Yeah,
working,
I'm happy to take questions, Neetu.
yeah. So actually, I think the audience has understood everything very clearly what you've presented. So we don't have questions really here. So
Great.
yeah,
So I
with
have some
this,
quiz questions for audience if that is the case. I have some quiz questions, and if audience, every participants are ready for it, I'm happy for that.
please go ahead. People can
Okay.
respond in the chat.
So guys, you can respond on the chat window, and this is just a way because I mean, as I said, a lot of learnings we got as we started evolving, as we started understanding more about remote working. So, who is known as the father of remote working? That is my first question, guys, for all of you. You can, if you know the answer, just please put it on the chat window. Let us see. Yeah, I want the name, Deepak. So, who is known as who is the father of remote working? We had also, I had this in the presentation as well. Yeah, okay, so that's right, Jack Niles. Thank you, Prakash. So that's correct. And the interesting thing was that Jack in those early 1970s worked remotely, and he published this article on telecommuting. So what I'm saying is, way back there was a belief, there was a possibility that this is something that is possible. So I come to my next question, folks. As you know, we started with industrial revolution, and industrial revolution is something that got people come out of their homes, and you have to commute, you have to travel to go to your office workspace. And of course, initially we used to have assembly line of workspaces, right? And then suddenly things change, and we started seeing this new style of cubicles, right? So my quiz question to everybody is, who invented these cubicles? And we started seeing that in all the organizations, right? So anybody who knows inventor of cubicles? Again, this is related to the work design space. Okay, okay, that's right. Okay, okay, Prakash. So let's also see which year was that, guys. Which year were cubicles invented, and which years cubicles were introduced? Okay. Okay, I see good options. Yeah, so 1967, that is right. Okay, so I come to my next quiz question. Tell me the company, tell me the organization, the first organization to introduce the 5 days work week kind of concept. Which was that organization, guys? Let us see if we have people really passionate about the subject on remote working. Let's see if anybody has any answer on that. Just put it on the chat window, guys. Yeah. Okay. so it was. So it was Ford, basically. Ford as an organization started doing that. I think somebody pasted IBM. So IBM was the first organization to start experimentation on remote working. Okay, and they started with very few bunch of associates, and then gradually it picked up. So definitely IBM was early organization where we started seeing all these things. Okay, all right. So with this, I end also my quiz session, Neetu. Thank you, participants, for your inputs, answers. I think I really enjoyed it. If any questions are there, I'm happy to take. Otherwise, I wish everybody safe time, have a good time, and be safe with your families.
Okay. So yeah, thanks Lalita for such an interactive session. and on this remote working, which is the new normal.
Yeah, I think somebody has a question. Please explain 25-25. Can I go ahead on that, Nitu?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so 25-25 is basically a remote working model, guys. It was communicated by our COO, sorry, last year. So what it means is basically by 2025, TCS has a very ambitious plan that 75% of the entire workforce will be working remotely. Now, what does that mean? So SBWS, that is Secure Borderless Workspace, that was a framework that was introduced. As a part of that, wherever we are working remotely, we are working through secure infrastructure, secure network, all that stuff. So this is definitely an ambitious plan from TCS because, as an organization, it's a big organization. We have lakhs of associates in the company, and this is not something that had been tried ever, I would say, in India at such a massive scale. So that is the vision, and we are all up and excited for it. In fact, last year when we learned about it, we learned about something like this being introduced. That was the time it made us really think that, okay, we just cannot assume that remote working will work the way we used to work earlier. It's a big cultural shift. It's a revolution, and you need to consciously think about those aspects, and you have to really see how to embrace that naturally, right, for yourself as an individual and also as an organization. Both the things have to be there. So I hope I answered that question. Nitu, any other questions?
The productivity of the team or the person who is working remotely. So does the productivity get impacted?
So what is the question? Does the productivity get impacted? I think that's a great question, and I am sure that last year there were a lot of questions on that, whether productivity will go down or it will go up. So I mean, I can share. I don't have a general answer for this, but I can definitely share some of the experiences from different accounts in TCS, and because it was basically a study that was also done. So let's say when early March, or I think mid of March, when the lockdown was imposed, for some organizations who were already working on some part of enabling remote working, for them it did not take a lot of time to move into that transition plan. But we also have a lot of customers on a very secure basis, like you cannot really work remotely, and they had never tried something like that. So I think temporarily for 2 to 3 weeks, it took a bit of that time to just gradually move on to this transition plan. So a temporary dip in the productivity, but later on, as team stabilized, as everything was put in place, the productivity observations were that it actually went upside. Okay. Now there could be reasons because now people kind of adapted to that shift, to that change, or let's say there was nothing else to do, because when the nation is in lockdown, what do, right? You have nothing else to do. So I think at that time we actually saw the productivity going upside. Now the question could be, because now we are talking about the future of remote working, the question could be, is that something that is going to sustain? So I would say that we still have to wait and experience the data and look at the data to really make a conclusion on that part, because we do not really want to be in a lockdown situation forever, right? There are two aspects, two environmental factors that we have to see here. One, people, or let's say a working economy in India, getting comfortable, getting used to this whole new cultural shift. And the second is we coming out of this global pandemic, right? So that we absolutely have a smooth, stable transition. At the same time, people have a balance in their life, okay? And then we can make those data analysis. We can do whether the productivity goes upside. My gut feeling is that it should not have an impact. In fact, the more stability people have, the productivity So from my perspective, I think ideally in the long run, once we have stabilized all these things, the productivity should go on the upper side. I hope that answers your question. Any other question for me?
Yeah, one last question. So remote working
Yes.
is proved to be profitable for organization. Does the organization want to continue remote working once the pandemic situation subsides? So I think this pretty much.
That's exactly. This is the topic
Yeah.
that I am here. So that's exactly the point here, guys. That I don't think in India we ever saw remote working as a mainstream practice. Okay, whereas if you look at some of the case studies from the West, uh, like I think used to work in NYC for a couple of years back, and at that time only there was one initiative that was happening to have people work from home for some part of their time so that they can save on the infrastructure cost, because the real estate cost was absolutely skyrocketing. So yes, I think for organizations it is a cost effective mechanism, but at the same time even for individuals, because see, when we have to work, let's say from specific ODCs from any specific metro location, you have to let's say if you're not originally living in that city, you have to relocate, you have to bring your family there, right? The whole cost of living expense comes into picture. I mean, I am based out of Mumbai, and in some of the interview discussions that I take, I get to know that people really do not want to come to Mumbai because just because of the cost of living, right? But with this, you have that advantage that you can actually also you can go to your original native place, which could be a tier 2 city, as long as you have good network infrastructure connectivity. uh, I think that's perfectly fine. So location is no more a big barrier, I would say. It depends on you as an individual and the organization to make the best of it, right? And that's exactly is my attempt to through this session, because I think that people really have to adapt it, and I don't think that we have yet mastered this in a very natural way, even now. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah. Very valid, actually. So location is now not a constraint, so people can have a balanced work-life, culture. So yeah, with this, there's one more question somebody has posted right now, which says, what demerits you
Yeah.
see using work from home, like team bonding or team motivation?
I did not hear your question, Nito. Can you repeat?
Yeah, so he's asking what demerits you see using work from home, like team bonding and team motivation, right? So we have team bonding activities when we go to office and all that. That is
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah, and now you see, I would say that now you have to reinvent the way of social bonding. Okay, so I will share one of my example in the assignment that I was working some time back. We introduced something like a social event, like bring your family or bring your pet. Okay, so you can hear me all right, because somebody saw a comment that audio is not there. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me. So bring your pet was a social exercise that was done. Uh, so of course we were a distributed team, so we had people from India, from US, UK. Of course, a mixed kind of team bonding here was happening. So while people in India, like I don't have a pet, so I don't have anybody. But then there were people who had, let's say, cute dogs, and they could get the pet. But one of my colleague in US actually got a pet, and it was unbelievable. The pet was a small snake. Now, I really freaked out because this was not something that I would ever imagine. I mean, I would never come to know about this if this would have been just an in office kind of bonding experience. And I was absolutely surprised to see that you can actually have small snakes as pet, because being in India, it was absolutely unbelievable for me. But it seems that she is very comfortable. She has loved the pet for last 2 years. So what I'm trying to say is that, uh, see, look at it like this. It's a different dimension. It's a new perspective. Maybe we have to uncover different ways of creating that social bonding experience. For example, when you're in office, whatever happens, interactions happen, is through in the cafeteria or water cooler chat. That's all. But now you virtually can invite people to your house, or even you can introduce your family members to them. So it all depends on you, on how you want to reinvent and how you want to create those social bonding experiences. And that's why I'm trying to say that you be societal, because it's not just about digital experiences, but also having social bonding experiences using the technology, that the power that technology has given to you. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, very well. There's one more question. So manufacturing companies are able to forced to work from office even during pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Way can software companies also look at enforcing employees to work from office in future? What he's asking is that manufacturing company, right? So they're the people, the employees has to go to office. So similarly, do you see the software companies will enforce this on employees that come to office, work from here?
So see, this is what I'm trying to say, that I really don't like the terms enforcing, because end of the day, it is about the need and it is about the possibility and what best you can make. I mean, still there are organizations, for example, manufacturing, where you have to be in person to do the stuff. My point here is that as long as technology is giving you that enablement, okay, as long as technology is giving you that levers, it is for organizations, it is always good for leveraging that. So for software companies or for any tech company, I really don't see any need of any kind of major enforcement to come to office. Unless, but again, I'm not saying that the future is going to be without offices, or we are going to really, all the IT companies will not ever see the offices. I think offices are still going to stay. But the major objective of having offices is basically a point where people can come together if really there is a need, if there have to be those discussions, if there have to be those collaboration activities where you need everybody's in-person presence, okay? That is where I see a need for software organizations to still have those points where people are coming together. As long as technology, as long as infrastructure, internet connectivity, everything is there in place, I really don't see a need of enforcement for people to be asked to come to office.
Right.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, very well. So that's all of questions and queries we have. So thanks, Lalita, for this interesting session. All right, so we are towards the end of today's virtual event on enterprise agility, the present and the future. I would like to thank all the speakers. So I'll request all the speakers to be on the camera, please, so people can see the three speakers we had. So I'll request, I would like to thank all the speakers for sharing their knowledge on diverse topic and making this session a great learning experience. Also, I would like to thank the attendees for their time and being such an enthusiastic audience, asking questions and being engaged. So hope you all had a great time and valuable learning from today's session. Stay home, stay safe, and see you all for the next virtual session. So yeah, thanks everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.